Hey, Jake, it's great to see you again. And when I say see you again, I don't normally have the opportunity to say that because you and I actually had beers, what, like 4 days ago?
Yep. 4 days ago. Honestly, it seems like 4 weeks ago because that week was so long.
It was
So,
definitely a fun time in Minneapolis.
yeah, I'm still recovering. Actually, this is the first beer I've had since I got back.
That's
So,
funny you say that. I put one in my fridge a little while ago. It'll be my first beer since I was back as well.
yeah, yeah, had quite a few beers out there.
So I was getting ready to hop in an Uber the other night. I had my Airbnb already set. And as fate would have it, you sent me a message simply saying, "Where are you at?" And I was
Yep,
debating going to Surly Brewing already, but the people
yep,
I was with, they were like, "No, we're going to make the smart decision and probably not go out." But
yeah,
then you told me you were at Surly and I had to come.
yeah. We were sitting there having a beer, and we had just sent the same invite to our friends at another brewery, Anthem Brewery, down the street from us here in Oklahoma City, and they said they were heading our way, and so then Bobby had mentioned, my fiance Bobby had mentioned, man, I wish we could have spent more time that the other day hanging out with Andrew, and I was like, well, hell, let's give him a text and see
It
what he's
was
doing.
such a great way to end my CBC week because so often, you bump into people, but you can't really have that conversation.
Yeah,
So it was a very just relaxed way to sit on a patio, drink
yeah,
some delicious beers, and actually get to know each other better.
yep,
And I'm
exactly.
excited to hang out with you again today to give you those questions that I didn't have the opportunity to ask
Yeah,
the other night.
yeah, exactly.
So, Jake, but first though, tell everybody who hasn't met you before, who are you, a little bit about Skydance Brewing, what you do in the industry.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, my name is Jake, and here in Oklahoma City. I'm a member of the Iowa Tribe of Oklahoma, which we're a small tribe here in Oklahoma that originated up in the Great Lakes areas, and then obviously during the federal government's policy of removal, our tribe moved to Indian territory at the time in Oklahoma, and so now we're stationed here in Perkins, Oklahoma, which is a few hours or a couple hours north of where I'm at now. But yeah, Skydance Brewing Company is Oklahoma's first Native American craft brewery. We are located in what's called Automobile Alley, which is a district within downtown Oklahoma City. Um, and so we just opened. So we spent a year, 2.5 years brewing at a co-op brewery before we opened here, and then we opened this place back in October, and we're just trying to keep up now.
I love it. So I've never been to Oklahoma City, and you make me want to come tomorrow.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. We'd
So
love to have you.
what do you love most about the Oklahoma craft beer scene and the community that surrounds it?
Man, I think what I really like the most about it is it's a new it's a new scene, for Oklahoma City. Like we weren't allowed to have tap rooms until 2016, and so before 2016 there were only a few breweries in Oklahoma, and they were all trying to be bigger distribution focused breweries. And then now with the ability to have tap rooms, it's really just exploded into, there's a lot of tap room only breweries. There's a lot of breweries that are like us that obviously we put a lot of focus on the tap room, but we also distribute all over the state. And so we went from just a few breweries to, over the past, what's it been, 6 years now. I think Oklahoma's somewhere around 60, and there's close to 40 in Oklahoma City. So
Wow.
and we're still growing. There's several that are in planning. That the growth has slowed a little because I think most of us were all in a homebrew club together back in the day, and so we all just opened breweries real fast. And then so now it's kind of more of a realistic pace is what we're starting to see. So
Is there still that sense of collaboration? Or are you seeing more
yeah,
competition as more
I,
open?
I, but a little of both. I mean, there's definitely a lot of collaboration because, like I said, we were all in the homebrew club together, so we're all buddies. We used to all brew in each other's garages and stuff back in the day. So there's a lot of collaboration. There's also a lot of helping each other out, right? So it's like just the other day, I had to go borrow some chip malt from Roughtail Brewing, which is a bigger brewery that I know is always going to have extra malt around. A couple of breweries this week came and borrowed pack techs from me for the cans. So we all call each other on that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's definitely becoming more competitive, especially for taproom business. Shelf space is always competitive because we're competing with breweries outside of just Oklahoma City. So, but the taproom business is starting to get a little more competitive. So, but it's a little blend there.
Something that stood out to me, you said the other night when we were sitting on the patio at Surly, you mentioned, your focus is on IPAs, but there was another brewery nearby that does more Belgian style. Then I think you mentioned another brewery nearby focuses on another style. Do you see that a
Yeah.
lot? Breweries, in your area just kind of choosing that style and running with it?
I don't know that I see a lot of breweries doing what we do, which is like kind of building I don't want to say a niche, but more of just trying to build your reputation around a style, which is what we're trying to do because you can get a good beer anywhere. In Oklahoma City, I really mean that. Like, there's a lot of good beer here, and you got to have a reason to go to any one of those specific breweries. And so, what we want people to, if somebody loves IPAs, we want them to think of Skydance first. Like, that's what we want. So that's just kind of our theory and our method of going about it. But what we're lucky about in the district that we're in Automobile Alley, there's 4 of us here within 2 or 3 blocks of each other. And yeah, one of them really focuses more on Belgian stuff. Another one focuses more on like some of the slushies. They do some IPAs too, but sours and stuff like that. Prairie, which is a really well-known brewery, is like right next door to us behind the alley. And they, obviously stouts and sours is their thing. So for when we're trying to garner attention from customers in this area, if they like IPAs, they're going to come to Skydance. And so that's kind of our method to our madness there. So.
No, I love it. But you weren't always in beer. You were involved with casinos prior to this.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not much of a gambler. I've had a couple experiences in Vegas, and that was
Yeah.
enough for me. And
Yeah.
like currently, my casino knowledge stems from I just finished reading the book Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke, and she
Yeah.
talks about how we can make smarter decisions when we don't have all the facts. It was a
Yeah.
really great need. But more so, I would say my casino knowledge, definitely at the moment. My wife and I are binge watching the final season of Ozark, and we have one
Oh
episode
man.
left. So
Yeah.
please don't give me any spoilers on that
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
But question for you, Jake, how did you get involved in the casino industry?
So obviously, being Native American, my tribe owns 3 casinos now. We operate 3 casinos. So man, you said you want to go 30 minutes, so I'll keep it
We'll talk as
short.
long as you need. I'm interested.
um, so going way back, I've had several different careers, and after I kind of got burnt out a little bit on a sales career, car sales. Sometimes I feel bad saying that, but so yeah, I was in the car sales business for a while, for several years actually. And my dad got real sick and needed somebody to take care of him, and so I took care of him, quit working completely, and took care of him for a while until eventually we had to put him in a nursing home. And that time off just really made me realize I never want to sell another car ever again. And a lot of my buddies were police officers, and so I got talked into going to a tribal police academy, and I became a tribal police officer. And at the time, it was just as a reserve police officer, and that was just my way of kind of having something to do while I'm trying to take care of my dad and stuff. And but after when I graduated, the tribal chairman came to my graduation and carried our tribal flag for me during the ceremony. And I don't know, a month later, she emailed me and said, "Hey, our casino needs a security director." And I said, "Well, I'm interested. What's it pay?" And she told me. I was like, "When do I start?" And so I started out as a security director there.
Why do you think she came to you?
Be a tribal member. So we try to, our tribes, we try to take care of our people. We actually were able to do some things that maybe you can't do in the world I'm in now, which is preference towards tribal members, preference toward Native Americans. And so it's always a hiring policy at pretty much every tribe is to, as long as they can do the job and if qualifications are equal, then preference goes to the tribal members. And so I took that job and then realized right off the bat that as much as I love the law enforcement security side of it, I've always been more of a business, like sales and stuff like that. So I kind of started mentoring under the general manager that was there at the time, and he was taking me to conferences, gaming conferences left and right, and meeting people that changed my way of thinking. Changed my way of thinking about money. These people were CEOs, tribal leaders, really successful people, and I just started learning the gaming business from them. And Then when the tribe decided they wanted to open a new casino on Route 66, they gave me the job of being in charge of that entire casino. So I became the general manager of that casino.
Wow. So you started in security, and when you were kind of mentoring under what was the gentleman's name who was showing you the
So
ropes?
so his name was Peter Robb, and he was South African, and he's really well known in the gaming business here. And actually, this past about 4 months ago, he passed away. And but I'll always owe him a lot. And then the current CEO that's there now, Stephen Burris, who's Osage, he was there when I got the position to kind of run that casino, and he mentored me quite a bit. Is more in depth in the gaming business and the industry itself. So
So running a casino, that sounds super impressive, just like being a brewery owner. But with it, I'm sure there come a billion different hats and responsibilities.
oh yeah.
Looking at your position there when you first took over your first casino, what were some of the responsibilities that fell on you?
Well, when I took that over, there was nothing but a field there on the property. And the tribe said, we want this casino open before we want it to open on the same day as our tribal elections. And that was in 90 days.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we
Imagine
said,
telling a brewery owner you have to open in 90 days.
yeah. And
Not going to happen.
our theory was we'll tell them, okay, we can do it, and then ask for forgiveness when we don't meet the deadline. And so we told them we could do it. And then right when we started construction, this torrential rain happened for like a week. And we found out that basically that whole area was turned into a floodplain. And so it delayed construction by like 3 weeks. And regardless, we still got open within 85 days. And so my initial responsibilities were that project, like building out this casino, hiring staff for all the different departments that are within a casino, and just building that team. A lot of casinos, we all know beer is regulated heavily by the government. Casinos are even worse. Casinos, even tribal casinos, like people think tribal stuff is like the wild, wild west. There's no rules for them to follow, but the federal government, the state government regulates it so much. It's like going to work at the Pentagon. And so it was tough. But that was really my first initial thing, was building the team, building out that place. And honestly, that right there, getting it open. And when we had the grand opening that night, my CEO calling me at 11 o'clock that night and said, hey, I knew from talking to all your employees over the past few months, they were all like, none of them were panicking. They all knew it was going to happen on time. He said, that gave me a lot of faith in you. And he said, he just praised me for getting it done, And when that happened, I was like, I can open a brewery. Like the building of it, the construction of it, all that stuff was the stuff. I knew I could make beer. I knew I could sell beer, and I knew how I could take care of customers, but I didn't know I could just build it. And that casino experience really gave me what I needed to know I could do it.
So when you decided to open up your brewery, did you open it exactly on the timeline like you did the casino? Were you
Oh,
able
heck
to?
no. Well, on the casino, we had the flood. In the brewery, we had something called COVID, and that just set us back. I mean, we thought we'd be in that co-op brewery for a year, and we ended up in there for 2.5 years, And so everything about when we opened the brewery was wrong. Like we opened at the wrong time, the worst time we could open. None of it went right.
Well, let's go back for a moment to when you hired your first team at the casino, because
Yep.
the gaming industry is definitely a very niche market. For example, it's a lot like beer, I imagine. Do you hire people who have expertise and knowledge of just gaming in general, or do you hire people who know how to interact with people? Like, what was your hiring process like? What were you looking for?
So I was real lucky. I was lucky and unlucky. I'm unlucky in the fact that we had 90 days to fill 100 and something positions. I was lucky in the fact that we already had some casinos, and so the higher level people, directors over each department, whether it's table games, slot machines, IT, marketing, the cage, food and beverage, those people were already intact. And so what I really learned from that process is having good leadership underneath you, and allowing them to do their jobs, and depending on them to help build out your team is like a key deal. And so I was lucky that a lot of them are still there today. And so this is 2012 when we did that. So, and they're still in those positions, so they're good leaders. And so I was lucky in that aspect. But my theory was always that in 90 days we got to hire all these people. So just know that 90 days after that, half of them probably won't be there because we're having to hire so fast. We didn't have time to be as choosy, right? And so we just needed to fill spots and then hope that we could mentor them enough to keep them, get them to stay.
How did that turn
And
out for you?
about like I predicted, we lost. I can remember walking in shortly after we opened, and I had to fire everybody in food and beverage that was there that day because they decided it was funny to fill a condom with water and freeze it in the cooler, in the freezer, and bust it out in front of customers. And so they were all gone that day, and I grilled burgers the rest of the day. And so, that part of it was tough, but like I always, moving forward, I ended up kind of being over all of our casinos for a little while. And I really took the idea of, I think you hire good leaders and then you let them fill out those positions. And as long as I'm building leadership underneath me, then, and it really works out a lot better that way. Like those departments are so drastically different. Slots to food and beverage, like that's two totally different departments. And me being the general manager of it, like I wasn't the general manager because I knew everything about slots or table games or food and beverage. I was there to be a leader and to build a team. And so I just needed to find people that knew those specific areas. I didn't have to know it.
I love that. It's so great to surround yourself by people smarter than you with that expertise that you need.
Because and my saying to them was always, look, if we're fully dependent on my abilities and my knowledge, we're all screwed. But together as a team, we can do a lot of great things, and we did.
So after those first 90 days, when you had about half your staff leave, and you saw the exodus in food and beverage because the obvious reason you just explained, how did that change like the training protocols and systems you had in place?
I think a lot of it was just like, the protocols were in place to keep to you can't prevent things from happening all the time. Sure. What you can do is just make sure you know about it, which in a casino is easy because there's a camera at every corner. Like, you can't get away with anything in a casino. And so it's just about handling it after it happens. How do you handle it to set the example to where it doesn't happen again, But that's also just because we were in a hurry to hire people. So we hired some people that maybe maybe there was something we missed in the interview that would have shown a character flaw or something like that, So now what I can tell you is in casinos, if you want to learn how to write policy and procedures, go get a management position in a casino, because you can't even open the casino without the government seeing that you have good policies and procedures in place.
So talk to me now. How is that transferred over to opening a brewery in your operation today?
Well, I'm lucky again because my fiance, Bobby, who really kind of handles a lot of the back end of the business, and then she's responsible for all this beautiful tap room that we have with the way it looks. But she was also in the gaming industry, and she came from that regulatory side. And so she has what sometimes we call her the no fun police, because whereas
Bobby,
I might,
sorry.
whereas I might say, just let them have it, or go ahead and pour them a full pour. When I might do something like that because I'm trying to create this fun environment, she's like, you can't do that, And so it's a good checks and balances system. So I'm lucky to have somebody like her here, though, that really, she digs into regulatory stuff. She makes sure we're paying taxes, that we're following the guidelines for our ABLE commission here that controls our licensing and that kind of stuff. So again, my job is to hire good people, right? She's one of those great people that can handle that kind of stuff. So
how many people do you have on your team, Jake?
So right now I have one sales rep, and I have Bobby, of course, handling the back end books and stuff. I have me and another guy in production. My stepson just finished high school, and so now he's helping out on the canning line, learning how to clean tanks and stuff. And then I have 6 people working in the tap room.
So you're growing.
Yeah, we're growing. I need to hire another production person so that I don't have to can and brew every drop of beer that comes through here, so
So
that's
when
our
you
next
hire that
step.
next production person, what are some of the things you're looking for?
Attention to detail. What we're going to want them to do is really learn how to do a lot of cellar work. And so obviously that's the point where beer gets screwed up. That's the spot where, thousands of dollars can get flushed down the drain. And so that's where I'm not as good at letting go of things as I thought I would be. And I should have already hired somebody, but I'm reluctant to because of that. Some of these recipes I've been brewing since I was like a kid. And so these beers are my babies, and so I'm trying to like force myself to figure out how to let go of some of these brewing, production duties, but just really paying attention to detail, somebody that wants more than just that job. I'm trying to find somebody that wants to, because look, we've talked about this before in other discussions, like it's not the easiest job, and we are a small brewery. Like I'm still trying to figure out how to make payroll every 2 weeks. And so it's not like I can bring somebody in back there to do cellar work and pay them $70,000 a year, And so it's going to be tough, and I'm going to have to get creative on how we pay them and that kind of stuff. And so I need them to also be, wanting to do some other stuff. Maybe they pick up a bar shift every once in a while, make some tips. Maybe they're doing it because they want to become a brewer. They want to get up on that brew stand at some point in time. That's kind of what I'm looking for. If it's somebody that's just looking for a little extra work, that's not going to work out,
No, I love that. You want someone who wants to grow with you. And it sounds
Yeah.
like your career in gaming, you had all these opportunities to go to
Yeah.
conferences, learn from wonderful leaders with storied
Yep.
careers. Do
Yep.
you try to impart your knowledge onto others and give them the same opportunities, whether it's professional
Yep.
development, the chance to say become Cicerone certified, or those things you try to incorporate in
Yeah.
your brewery?
I tell the story of Casey Bear. Casey came to me in the casino business as a security
Jake, I was going
officer.
to save this till the end, but go ahead now.
so, so Casey came to me as a security officer, and I hired him, and he was in school, and he just worked, I don't know what we paid back then, $12 an hour or something as a security officer. And he obviously wanted to be something more, he just wanted his foot in the door. And so now he's running that casino that I built. He's running the whole thing. And so I always think about how people will, they think they're motivated by money, but some people are motivated by something in the future, by growing into the business. And that was what I saw in Casey. And so I mentored him as much as I could. I was always hoping to find my replacement, because people are afraid to find their replacement. Like people think, oh, I don't want to be replaced. Well, the thing about it is, if you're in a bigger organization, if you can't be replaced, then why should I promote you? Like, why should we take you out of that position if you can't be replaced? And so I always wanted to be replaced so that I could justify putting me in a bigger position. And so that's where he's at, and he's still there. And people ask all the time, tell me something you accomplished in the gaming business. And I say, Casey Bear. Like, that's my favorite accomplishment. Not that we built these casinos, not how much money we made, but Casey Bear now, he's married now, and he's got a kid. I think he's got a second kid on the way. And he just graduated from Oklahoma State University. He's got a marketing degree, and he's just living his life. And that just makes me extremely happy. I'd steal him away and find a place for him here, but I might mess up his path.
That's so funny. I mean, I love what you said about you want to be replaced, because I
Yeah.
think that's such a beautiful statement. But at the same time, sometimes it's so hard to give up control. When
Yeah.
something's your baby, the brewery is your baby. Every little task from those recipes you've been brewing, half your life.
Yep.
When someone comes in and they want to make a change, ooh, Jake, that's your baby. It's hard.
Yeah.
How do you let go of those tasks that have become associated with you and accept that it's for the greater good?
If you ask Bobby, she'll tell you I don't. so that, like I said earlier, that is what I'm struggling with a little bit. But I think what happens is the financials start to tell you have to, because there are things that, there's a guy named Andy Stanley who he's a preacher, but he also teaches a lot about leadership. And he has a saying, only do what only you can do. And so there are certain aspects in this business that only I can do. And it's not brewing. because there's other people that can brew beer. There's a lot of people. I don't have the commercial experiences a lot most brewers do. So there's a lot of people that can brew our beer. But growing our business, making connections, making contacts, selling the beer sometimes, like when I go out on a sales call with our sales guy, if especially if it's a tribal connection, like our tribal museum down the street or casinos and stuff like that, me going in like seals the deal. Whereas he might struggle a little bit. And so there are things that I can spend my time on that'll help us make money. That if I'm stuck back here brewing beer all day, then we're not growing and we're not doing that stuff.
You have to think about where your time's best spent, even if you don't always want to do it.
Exactly.
That's the fun challenges of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it is.
So you've talked a lot about the positives today and what you've learned from the gaming industry and kind of how you've taken it over. Is there something that did not go as planned when you were working at casinos that you were able to take that moment and make sure something similar didn't happen in beer?
Yeah, I always wanted to. I used to always say, one day I'm going to start my own business and treat people the way they should have been treated where I was before. And what I mean by that is that sometimes the native preference thing went too far. And then sometimes, like, we would hire tribal members who just really weren't qualified for the position, and you're putting them in a position to fail. And what you're really doing, instead of helping them, you're actually putting them in a position to where they're going to be jobless in a few months, And so I wanted there to be a lot more mentorship with what we do here than what happened in casinos. There's a lot of politics in the casino world because the elected officials of the tribe are always just hovering like right there. And so what I love right now is being able to provide this environment where the politics aren't a part of anything. It doesn't matter. We don't talk politics here. We don't, none of that kind of stuff matters. And so that was a lot of like the biggest things I wanted to do was just really show that, we really knew how to run a business a little bit different than the way we were kind of forced to do things in the casino world. So
you mentioned mentorship as being really important to you. How do you make sure you give your team that one-on-one time, or even just like, team meeting like time where you give them that attention?
That was hard. Like it was a lot easier when I was in the casino because we had such a team, like a big team under me, that I was able to do so much more of those fun things like that. I think it's fun mentoring, talking to people. I used to be able to just spend hours like walking around individual one-on-one. A security guy standing by the front door, I could stand and talk to him for a little while. Same thing with somebody like one of the slot machine techs or whatever, figure out, hey, what do you want to do in the future? I had time to do that stuff. Here I'm brewing all the time and stuff. It's hard. And so what we try to do is make sure that Bobby does a good job of making sure everything's organized and on the books, like on the calendars. And so we have a full team meeting every month. And then we have a leadership meeting every Monday, which means like whoever we have that's kind of in charge of the tap room, my other brewer, my sales guy, and then our marketing that we outsource, social media person. So we try to meet every Monday and discuss what's going on, make sure everybody, what I do in those meetings is I'm always, my favorite saying is, I don't know, what do you think? Like people want to say all the time, hey, so what should we do about this? And my favorite thing is to say, I don't know, what do you think? And it's because I want them to give ideas. I want them to experience their ideas being used, and I want them to experience their ideas not being used. Like some people get hurt that they had an idea and nobody used it, and they think they didn't get heard, So if you give them enough opportunities to come up with ideas, then some of them will get used. And then when they come up with a bad one, we have to turn it down. It doesn't hurt them as much, but it makes them also take some ownership. If we hire people for the bar, for the tap rooms, like bartenders, I want whoever's in charge of the tap room to really be making those decisions so that they don't think, oh, well, that Jake just hired him because he likes them or whatever, Like I want them to take charge, like give them control. You got to relinquish some of that control.
That's the fun part. But looking at your staff, Jake, why are people choosing to work at Skydance? Are they working, is it just a college job? Are they looking to become a brewery owner at some point in their career? Do they want to learn more about brewing? What are your team, what motivates them right now?
we have a pretty unique little mix there. We have one guy that's a little bit older, like late 30s, maybe 40. That he's our best salesperson. Like he upsells, he leads the team every month in package sales, and he makes good money because of it. And so he's just he also owns his own soda company, like a craft soda company.
Oh,
So
neat.
he's just here to make the extra money. He's here. He's got a young son that's only like almost 2 years old. So he's just trying to bring that extra income in. Then we've got one of our most promising taproom members is Kelsey, and she's 21. This when she came here was the first time she'd ever poured an alcoholic drink into a glass, and she's just hungry, like she wants to be something bigger. And we recently moved her up to like a taproom lead position. She does all the scheduling and stuff around here. So, and then we have another person who's a stay-at-home dad. He has a little baby, and his wife is a nurse that works weird hours, So he just works kind of part-time, and he's just loves craft beer. He's getting into home brewing, and so that's why he's here. I mean, it's just there's just a real big mix of why people are here, and one of the reasons they stay here is because we pay our taproom staff by the hour. We pay them more than anybody else in town, or at least as much as anybody else in town. Most people are paying like $6 or $7 an hour plus tips. Here we pay $10 an hour plus tips, and so they're all making 25 to 30 bucks an hour after tips. And then what we try to do is focus on bringing people in who are willing to work more hours so that they don't need another job somewhere else. Like we want less people, but they get more hours, and that's really worked out for us. It keeps them happy. They all get to work some of the good shifts, and they love the way we do the tip pool. So
It sounds like you created a nice culture there.
hope so. I mean,
I,
I think we're still creating it. Yeah, but
well, it's an evolving product. It'll always
yep,
change.
yeah, yeah,
One thing I've taken away from this conversation so far is how much you're focused on relationships. Even when
yeah,
you're at the casinos, you talk to the security person, you talk to the
yeah,
dealer. You know, Obviously, when you're wearing all these important hats, you have a lot of things that you have to get done. But from
yeah.
your perspective, how important is it to take the time to know each individual staff person in your company, so that way you can make their experience better?
Well, I mean, for the business, it's life or death. So Zig Ziglar said that the key to success is winning relationships, and I've learned that over the years that that's not BS, man. That's true. Like um, over my life, every job I've ever had has never been because I called an ad and went and interviewed. It was from somebody I knew. Relationships are everything. I've got places that if I ended up with extra kegs of beer that I've just got to get rid of, I've got some restaurants and bars I can call, and they won't just say yes. They'll say, how many do you want me to take? And those relationships that you have with people are key. And it's the same thing just even within the tap room, or even back here between me and my brewer that helps me with production in the back. Like having a good relationship with them is the whole key to success. It's what keeps people happy. It's what makes me know what keeps them happy. Without the relationship, you might think somebody's happy, but if you don't have a good relationship with them, you don't really know. You have no real idea if they're happy or not. And so those are in every aspect, whether it's sales, brewing, the tap room, everything's about the relationship. All of it is. Even our
So,
customers that come in the tap room have a relationship with us.
so based on your experiences in both industries, what advice do you have for a brewery owner, whether small or large, how to maintain this focus on relationships as they continue to grow? Any tips or tricks?
Well, figure out how to be a people person. When I was a kid, I was always shy and quiet. I'm actually an introvert by trade. So I've had to learn how to have more personality and outgoing just through the different careers that I've had. And so that's one thing. The other thing is, I mean, I don't know that there's a lot of tips or tricks, but you just have to care. Like it has to be something in you that says you care about getting to know people and wanting those people to get to know you. But you got to spend time out there in that tap room as a business owner. I know a lot of breweries where that doesn't happen. You got to get out there in that tap room. You got to go out with your sales guy on some sales calls. You got to spend time. I know, man, this is in the casino world. I would have done this, but have a beer with some of your staff from time to time. go to craft brewers conference and take an employee out, for a beer or whatever. You gotta spend some of that after hour time with them. The only people that are afraid to do that are the people that don't act right when they're out. So I try to have, like, I know some people think it's BS when I say family, that we're family here, but we really are family here, and we try to treat them like that, and we try to treat everybody as family. And if they don't fit in as part of the family, that'll work itself out. They probably won't stick around, but so far everybody sticks around.
So what's your next big goal for Skydance?
Well, we were drinking at Surly the other day. That looked like a nice goal.
That was a beautiful facility.
But I think next for us is multiple tap room locations. And so we're talking right now with some tribes. My tribe's actually building a resort in the location where the casino was that I built. We're building a Harrah's Casino Resort right there, and so. Unless I win as chairman next year of the tribe, then I might not be able to do this. But our goal is to maybe put a tap room in that location, or some of the other bigger casinos around the state, and kind of build the part of the business that's actually profitable, which is tap room. Try to build that, grow that part of the business now, and then eventually build something like what we saw at Surly. Like, to me, that really is my dream. I know that's becoming harder and harder these days to build something like that because of what needs to happen distribution wise to be able to build that. But I'd love to build that destination type brewery for sure.
So you
Something
mentioned,
that Native Americans can be proud of.
I love that. So you mentioned winning as chairman of your tribe. Is this an election?
Yeah. So next summer will be the next election for tribal chairman. So it's like some tribes call it the chief or governor or whatever. We call it chairman. So my grandpa was our tribal chairman for 32 years, and I've always felt like that was kind of my calling to do. And so that's what I'm going to do. Now's the time to do it. I can just sense it. I've got a lot of people tried to get me to run last year for it, but we were in the middle of opening this location. Where the tribe is right now, business wise, they need entrepreneurial type minds. Casinos are great. It's a great source of income for the tribe, but we're starting to we have a governor here who I think would like to make it to where tribes don't have what we have in casinos. And so I think we need to start thinking about other types of business, more real estate stuff, and become more business, type tribes.
So many brewery owners start running their brewery while running another full-time job. So right now you run a brewery, and it sounds like you're trying to put another full-time
I
job on
know.
yourself. Is that correct?
But every time I talk about it, Bobby rolls her eyes. But at the same time, I think sometimes things have a higher meaning. There's a purpose. You have a calling, and if you feel that and you sense that, you can't shy away from it. And what it's going to do is, just over the next year, it's going to cause us to really focus on building that team I talked about earlier, and just making sure that we put ourselves in a position to where I'm not needed every single day. Look, I don't want to get political. If a goofball like we recently had as president can run the country, I think I can run a brewery.
I think you'll
And
do a damn good job.
yeah.
Well, kind of looking back on the conversation, you start off by telling me how you opened up a casino in 90 days. It seems like you work well under fire. Is
I
that a
think so.
fair
Yeah,
observation?
I think so. And I think a lot of people do, and they don't realize it. I think a lot of people, we're humans are designed to be survivors, and when you're really pushed at it, you find ways to figure it out. You always find a way to figure it out. I always felt like life was like a game, and it's like when you get pushed into a corner, you figure a way out, somehow. So definitely, I feel like that for sure.
If you had to compare it to a table game or a slot machine, what would it be?
Oh, definitely not a slot. Slot machines are mindless. It's just you're doing something else while you're hitting a button. Uh, I would say, I mean, life, right? Or Monopoly, something like that. I don't know. I think My life is a lot more like a blackjack game. a lot of ups and downs, and a lot going on. A
Well,
lot
it
of
sounds
stuff
like you've
happening.
got so many exciting things going on right now. I'm excited for
Yeah.
your election next year. I think,
Oh yeah.
having that fire under you to
Hmm.
do that, open more tap rooms, it's gonna bring that team together for you. And
Yeah.
I think you're gonna do a fantastic job of finding the right
I,
people.
I appreciate that, man. I hope so.
Well, I do want to go back to one part
Yeah.
of your life we didn't really go from the transition. I would love to learn. You spent quite some time in the gaming world, then you
Yeah.
opened your brewery. Why did you
Yeah.
leave the gaming world, Jake?
Well, so here's the deal. When my dad, my dad taught me how to make beer when I was a kid, and so we always wanted to do this. This was always a dream. I used to work when I was in school in college. I worked at a brewery in Norman called Coach's, and he would come in after work and drink beer, and I'd get off work. I'd sit with him at the bar, and we'd talk about how we were going to do this one day. And so then I started making good money in the casino business and stuff, and it became talk, for years and years and years. And so when he died, I was like, I'm gonna make this happen. I'm gonna start this brewery. And he actually died the day I found out I was getting promoted to have my own casino, to be in charge of a
Wow.
casino. And I still decided that I was going to do this. And so I spent 5 years. Um, I literally got on a napkin and wrote a plan. Like, by the time I turned 40, I will own a brewery. And it was a 5 year plan of brewing every weekend for 2 years to make sure I train myself, perfect these things, go brew at breweries and help people out. And then, a year of like putting together a business plan, and then a year or two of just trying to find out who's got my money, who's going to help me build this place. And so we actually ended up brewing our first batch. Was it 3 weeks after I turned 40 at that
So
co-op
you were still
place?
40, it counts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so like really, the reason I quit the casino business, it would have been so much easier for me to figure out a way to keep making the money I was making at the time. But for those 5 years, man, I really studied entrepreneurs, and every podcast, every book, everything I could read about leadership, entrepreneurship, sales, beer. Like I consume that content. And one of the things I found from some of the most successful people was either you're all in or you're not. Either you believe in it or you don't believe in it. And a lot of people say, well, I'm going to keep my job in case it doesn't work out. Well, let me tell you something. The capital that it takes to build this type of business, if you're not 100% in belief that it's going to happen, don't do it. Like, don't start. And so I knew it would work. I knew the story was good. I knew the passion was there. And I knew the purpose of why I'm wanting to do it was there. And so I decided to go all in. Well, that, and then some investors that we had said, we'll invest if you quit your job and do it full time. And so that's what we did.
It's so scary jumping ship like that. When you have a well-paying job, it supports your family. And I hate to say the brewing world could be your hobby to start, but you're right. You got to go all in to do it. So for anyone on that ledge of, they're working 40 hours a week doing something, but they also run a brewery,
Yep.
you can't change everyone's mind, but how would
No.
you
Yeah.
motivate someone else to quit their other job and invest fully in beer?
Well, and I would also say not everybody's path is my path, right? Like maybe they don't need to quit their job. If their business may be successful without them working in it full time. In fact, I've seen some business owners that they shouldn't be working in it full time. But like I think everybody just has to know how to have some self awareness. That's like a key to success. Also, is self awareness and know in yourself like what you need and what you want. For me, man, my dad was in that nursing home for 6 years,
Wow.
and so or 5 years, and so I would go in there every day to see him, and then when he would be asleep or taking a nap or something, I'd go out in the lobby area and talk to the old guys out there. I'm always that guy who likes to find an old guy and sit by him and talk. And one thing I learned was how many of them had regret. Like their whole day was full of nothing about just regret. They're dying, they're waiting to die, and they regret how their relationship with their kids went. They regret the woman that they never said I love you to. They regret not taking that scholarship in college, or not starting the business that they wanted to start. And people say it's scary to quit your job and start a business. You know what's scary to me? What was scary to me was regret. Was laying in a deathbed and knowing that I didn't do something that I wanted, shoulda, coulda, woulda, is the scariest thing when you're dying. And that could be tomorrow for me. That could be tomorrow for me. And so, like, I literally every day of my life, like right now, I'll show it to you. I carry this coin in my pocket every single day, memento mori. And so this is a stoicism thing. And basically what it means is you could leave life right now. You could die today. And every time I put my hand in my pocket, I feel that coin, and it reminds me that today could be my last day. And so whatever it is I would regret if I died today not doing, I'm going to go do it today, like right now.
Jake, that is a wonderful philosophy, and I think it's a perfect note to leave with right now. That's amazing. I mean, I love that you have attitude. That attitude. The scariest thing is regret. That's super powerful, and I'm excited to follow your journey. You're such a positive person. You're doing so many things, but you're so focused on relationships, and you want the success for those around you. You want to be replaced.
Yeah. I mean, we have other Native Americans, especially in my tribe, tribal members, cousins of mine, who maybe they have a dream and they need to see somebody like them doing it. And so I'm just trying to be that example for them. I want them to see, if you look at me, you might not see somebody that looks Native American. So if we didn't point out that we're a Native American brewery, I'd be another white-skinned guy with a beard starting a brewery. And I don't want to be just that. I want these tribal members to see somebody that came from their place, where they came from, and who's just like them, doing something big and creating this business, and maybe they'll go start their own.
So to play devil's advocate with you for a minute, because I know you don't like having regrets, but if you had to look back on your life, is there anything you do regret? Or any decisions you make you wish you did a little differently?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of that stuff. I wish I'd have never went into that co-op brewery, but I didn't know COVID was going to happen and that we'd be there 2.5 years. But we spent everything that we raised from investors. All the money we raised got spent during that time. That would have been operating capital that I'd have in the bank right now, and I'd be sleeping right now instead of wondering about payroll next week. And so that's a regret, or something I wish I'd have done different. I also wish that when we first started, that I would have had more faith in the fact that what I love to do is make IPAs. Um, a lot of brewers say, well, I wish I could make lagers all day, but we have to make these hazies. I'm like, I like hazies. I love anything with hops. I like West Coast. And so I wish from the beginning we'd have done what we're doing now, which is we focus on that. Sure, I've got lots of other beer styles on the menu down here.
You're going all in.
Yeah, but I'm trying to go all in, and I'm trying to be focused on our identity and what this S stands for. And one of the things it stands for is we're trying to make the best IPAs in the state, if not the country. And that's what we're trying to do.
Well, I can't wait to try them. Now I'm going to give you 3 rapid fire questions, and we're going to get off the line. Jake, what should any brewery owner what book should they read right now? What are your favorites?
Oh my God.
If you had to give one recommendation based on today's conversation.
Okay. Boy, I don't know. So here's the deal. You said one of the things you liked was my positive mindset. And I'm not going to point out one book, but I would read anything from Zig Ziglar. I would go back and read just anything from Zig Ziglar, because he's just super positive, changed my entire mindset years and years ago. So
great recommendation. How about podcast? I know you make your own podcast as well, which you need to reboot soon, by the way.
Yeah.
But for other people's podcasts, who do you enjoy listening to?
Oh, I love, like, the Brewbound is a great podcast to listen to, because it gives you a lot of insight into the business. The craft beer and brewing, I think that's what it's called, beer and brewing podcast is a great one. And then, of course, my buddy Chris Farman had a podcast that I think he's kind of put on hold for a while. So the SB Standard guys had a good podcast. So
they did have a good podcast. I was on it a while back. It was a fun time.
Yep.
And last question, I'll give you an easy one. I didn't ask earlier. What are you drinking right now, Jake?
Yeah, so we do a new beer release every Friday. Most of them are IPAs, but this one's a sour IPA, and it's based after the cocktail Mai Tai. And so we called it Mai Tai. So like Mai Tai. So that's what I'm drinking today. And like I said, it's my first beer since I got back from CBC, so it's tasting pretty good.
Well, I'm excited to go pour my first beer since CBC shortly. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate the time today. Always enjoy these conversations. If anybody's trying to reach out to you, can they find you?
Man, you know how it is in the craft beer industry. Instagram's where everybody's hanging out at. So at Skydance Brewing on Instagram. You can also go to at Skydance Brewing on Facebook and the Twitters and all that good stuff. That's usually the best way to reach us. Of course, skydancebrewing.com is our website. You can email us through there. So.
And if they want to dive into your podcast, where can they catch that?
Yeah, so on Spotify, Apple, but I'm real proud of the YouTube version. We do a video version, and it's called Brewed with Hustle. Basically, it's just me talking to entrepreneurs back when we first started the brewery, and it's me trying to, I used to have a lot of conversations with other entrepreneurs, and it was real helpful. And I used to think, man, people should hear these conversations. And so I was like, well, let's just have them on a podcast so they'll always be out there for these people that we're trying to inspire, and they can listen to other people's stories about how they started their businesses. And most of them, we try to focus on a lot of Native American owned businesses, but there's other people on there as well. So it's pretty cool.
I love talking to other entrepreneurs because there's always going to be that one takeaway, and you can be like, oh my gosh, I can apply it to my life, or I can share it with Jake or share it with so-and-so, and it's going to make someone's day better.
And they can relate to you. Like they're going through the same things. Like some of the stuff that we go through here that's stressful. Sometimes I'm like, oh man, I can't believe this is happening to us. But then I talked to one of these other brewers down the street, and they're like, oh, it'll still be happening 2 years from now. It's the same, it never changes, and they're going through it now. So it helps you know that you're not alone.
100%. Well, I appreciate you sharing your insight today. Until we share beers next, hopefully in Oklahoma City. So Jake, talk to you online and enjoy your weekend. Cheers.
Cheers. Appreciate it.